east, west, north, south, floor style. Kiss the ring.
If you couldn't tell by the last video, I like Dragon Ball Z, and I like it a lot. The first episode I remember watching was the episode where Goku was fighting Kid Buu on Supreme Kai's planet. That was the start, and it was all downhill from there. I ended up watching through all of Z multiple times. I went back to watch Dragon Ball, ended up finding my way through Dragon Ball GT. I watched every movie except for the Dead Zone. I loved the Bridge series TFS made. I watched through Kai in English and Japanese. Even watched it again when it landed on Nicktoons and 4Kids back in the day. Shout out to the unholy terror that was Blue Popo. And of course, I watched Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, Dragon Ball Super, and Super Broly. I even checked into the manga every now and again, because I am attached to this franchise, for better and for worse. I say all that to say I love the Dragon Ball franchise, and I would have never gotten into art, let alone anime, without its presence in my life. I have a great appreciation for Akira Toriyama's Wild Ride. But why all this build-up and preamble? Well, I was bored at the ER one day, and I knew I wouldn't be able to do anything major on hospital Wi-Fi. So I booted up that Shonen Jump app, Legal Gang, and I got to rereading Dragon Ball. I hadn't gotten through the Red Ribbon Army arcs to Z in a minute, so I decided to check it out for old time's sake. I was blazing through it, and eventually I got to the part of the story where Goku and the gang are at fortune teller Baba's place, and he's reuniting with Grandpa Gohan. I honestly wasn't expecting to feel anything reading Dragon Ball, but I ain't gonna lie, that part got to me. It was touching to see Goku reunite with his dad, you know? I know what you're thinking, I'ma get to that. But that had me thinking about Goku and how he was as a dad. The general consensus is that Goku's a shitty dad. Oh, how he just gonna leave Gohan on his own like that? Goten ain't even meet that nigga till he was 7 years old. He done pipe Chi-Chi and ain't even kiss her. All of that pops up whenever you talk about Goku's parenting skills. And everybody's go-to indictment of him is Piccolo's Gohan's real dad. How's Vegeta a way better father than Goku is? Like, alright man. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions on the matter, but personally, I disagree. Alright, so let's look over at Goku's track record with Gohan. Just going over what we know he's done with his son. First off, he's there with Chi-Chi and Gohan attentively for the first 4 years of Gohan's life. Then, he's gone for about a year because he, dies. He comes back to life to beat the brakes out of Nappa and scrap with Vegeta. The two then spend 3 days together in the hospital after the battle, before Gohan and Krillin get discharged. After they're discharged, Gohan spends 2 days with Chi-Chi and Ox King at home on Mount Paozu. We know that he did get to see Goku again before leaving for Namek, because he apparently got laughed at for the outfit that Chi-Chi put him in. Afterwards, Gohan spends 1 month in space with Krillin and Bulma, because Goku's still in the hospital. The day Yajirobe comes through with the Senzu beans, Goku leaves, and heads to Capsule Corp to meet with Dr. Briefs, then immediately leaving for Namek to catch up with Gohan, Krillin, and Bulma. He takes about 6 days to get from Earth to Namek in his ship. After that, the events that take place on Namek after Goku's arrival take place throughout one single, wild day. 130 days later, the Namekian Dragon Balls are ready to be used again, and Chi-Chi and Gohan find out that Goku's actually alive and doesn't want to return just yet because he decided to return on his own. After another 130 days, they bring back Tien and Chaozu, but still no sign of Goku. In the time it took to bring everybody back, it's been a year since Goku's seen Gohan. Then, another year passes, and Frieza arrives on Earth to get bodied, along with Goku. Goku then spends the next 3 years with Chi-Chi, Gohan, Ox King, and Piccolo in order to train up for the incoming androids. After that, for 10 days he's out of commission due to the heart virus that was inflamed by him going Super Saiyan against Android 20. The same day he wakes up, he takes Gohan, Trunks, and Vegeta up to the lookout in order to use the hyperbolic time chamber. Goku spends one day outside of the room with Gohan, and one day inside the room with Gohan. Inside of the room, he spends a year with Gohan and nobody else. Afterwards, they spend 9 more days together with Chi-Chi. 6 days later, Gohan spends the final 3 days before the Cell Games at the lookout, hanging out with Dende, Piccolo, Krillin, Trunks, and Tien. Goku dies again, we gonna get to this too, and asks not to be brought back to life because he seemingly attracts danger and bad guys. After the Cell Games, 7 years pass without Gohan or now Goten being able to see Goku. He comes back to life one day in order to join his family and the rest of the gang for the 25th Tenkaichi Budokai tournament. Same way Grandpa Gohan came back for a day to see Goku back when he was a kid. The day passes and Goku goes back to King Yema's office, discovering that Gohan wasn't killed by Buu, and immediately reunites with him. They spend one day together while Gohan trains with the Z-Sword, and another day with Gohan as Old Kai unlocks his potential. In the same day, Old Kai gives his life to Goku, bringing him back to life. He immediately goes to his son's side to get him to fuse with him, but Gohan gets absorbed by Buu. Goku and Vegeta save their kids, Piccolo, and Fat Buu from the inside of Super Buu. The rest of the day onwards, the battle with Buu ends, Gohan and Goten die, get wished back to life, and reunite with Goku after he beats Buu for real. They reunite and don't really leave each other alone for any super long period of time that we're aware of, for about 5 years. After Videl's pregnancy is announced at Bulma's birthday party, Mr. Satan gets to work building a house for Gohan and Videl to live in, and the two cohabitate there 6 months after Beerus shows up. Before and after Gohan moves out, Goku is shown again and again having a happy relationship with Goten, despite leaving to train on King Kai's planet for days. Not to mention training with Whis and Beerus' domain, and leaving for the Tournament of Power, which only lasted a day. 5 years after the events of Super, at the end of Z, we see Gohan and Videl now live in a new, smaller home closer to Goku and Chi-Chi's in Mount Pozu, and we see Goku training with Goten despite Goten's waning interest in martial arts. I'm not going to include Goku's actions in GT in this recap of his parenting because number 1, he barely interacts with his kids in GT, and number 2, it's nebulous as to whether or not GT is still canon, and personally, I don't think it is. So now that we've got a slight timeline set up, let's go through some of the usual criticisms and comparisons and see exactly why I think they're bullshit. Alright, so the first thing people say is that Goku's never there for Gohan, or he doesn't care about Gohan. That's just not the case for the most part. The first time he's not involved in Gohan's life was when Gohan was 4. Why did he leave again? Oh yeah, he fucking died. He literally died trying to stop his brother from taking Gohan away from him. And after he's brought back to life, what's he do as soon as he's back on Earth? Fly over to where the battle's happening and save Gohan again, this time from getting killed by Nappa. As soon as he arrives on Namek, the first thing he does is give Gohan a senzu bean after Raccoon beat his ass. The first time he actively quote-unquote abandons Gohan was when he decided to spend 2 years away from him and his wife after beating Frieza. After that, it's 3 years of training and him being there for Gohan. He spent a whole 10 days away from him because he was dying again, but after that they spend 2 days and a whole year together, and it's just the two of them. After that, it's 6 days together with the whole family before he makes the executive decision to stay dead for 7 years, that being the second time he quote-unquote abandoned his family. When he comes back to life for a day, he's literally together with Gohan, Goten, and Chi-Chi till the franchise ends, except for when they all die, when Gohan moves out, and when he actually has to fight somebody in order to save them all from a painful death. And let's talk about Goku's understanding of Gohan, alright? At first, he just assumes Gohan would love fighting as much as he did. The only reason why he didn't think about training Gohan at all before Raditz shows up is because Chi-Chi wanted him to strive more towards his academics. And at the Cell Games, Piccolo gets at Goku for betting on Gohan's anger, and goes off about how Gohan doesn't actually like fighting just to test himself, the way Goku does. It took Goku a whole episode of the anime for him to realize his mistake, but it took 8 panels for Goku to get the message in the manga. 8 panels. Shit was instantaneous. He heard Piccolo, saw Gohan in pain, and was about to shut that shit down immediately. And when Gohan's newfound power got to his head, and he pushed Cell into a corner without finishing him off right then and there, Cell was going to self-destruct and kill everybody. Gohan's beating himself up about it, but in comes Goku. He tells Gohan he's proud of him, asks him to apologize to Chi-Chi for him, and teleports Cell to King Kai's planet and dies for the sake of his son and the planet. The man dies for his son twice, and niggas got the nerve to call him a terrible father. Wild. And in Super, he acknowledges Gohan's interest in and focus in his academic endeavors, as well as his strength. But what about Goten? The two first meet each other at the 25th Tenkaichi Budokai. Goten's nervous to see him and hides behind Chi-Chi, and clings to Gohan's cape before the tournament gets going. It's actually a case where the anime is a little better than the manga, because in the anime we see the two actually interact right then and there. Goku picks him up and he even rides on his shoulder. In the manga, the first time we see the two properly interact is when Goku's trying to teach him and Trunks the fusion dance. And the first time he actually hugs him in the manga is when he has to go back to the afterlife, seemingly forever. But after that, Goten loves his dad, and the two get along really well in Dragon Ball Super when he's allowed on screen. And that's why I think off-rip, Goku's an okay to decent, but definitely not perfect, father. But why and how is he still a better father than Piccolo? Simply put, Piccolo's too young to be Gohan's father figure. Straight up. Gohan obviously looks up to Piccolo as a mentor, and as a friend though. He even says that he looks up to Piccolo just as much as he looks up to Goku. That leads me to think of Piccolo as more of a big brother to Gohan, and less of a father figure. Let me break it down like this. Goku killed Demon King Piccolo when he was 15 years old. That same day, Piccolo was born. 3 years later, the two meet and fight at the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. Goku's now 18, and Piccolo is 3 years old at that point. After his defeat, 5 years pass before the two meet again and fight Raditz. Goku's 23 years old now, and Piccolo's 8 years old. 8? Piccolo might have matured super fast, but that's only because he's an alien. And he meets and trains Gohan when he's 4 years old, after leaving Gohan to die for 6 months, after dropping him some apples, ripping off his tail, and giving him some drip. After the Namek arc, Gohan stays with Chi-Chi, rather than looking for Piccolo and going off to live with him, which he would have done if he felt as if he could live with Piccolo as a father figure. And even Piccolo himself notes that Gohan's the only one who treated him with some respect, considering him a friend. At least that's what he says in the dub. The only time Piccolo actively starts looking after kids because he wants to is when he's taking care of Pen in Resurrection F and Dragon Ball Super. I'd argue he's only doing that because Toei wanted to play into the fanbase's collective joke about him raising everyone's kids, but whatever. Him watching over Goten and Trunks in the Buu arc was just him training the two in the fusion technique, because no one else could fuse properly, and no one else could teach them the technique. So Piccolo, while a dope big brother, an elite uncle, I wouldn't call him a father figure at all, let alone Gohan's real dad. And now, Vegeta. Goddamn Prince of all Saiyans. I'm not about to sit here and say Vegeta's the real terrible dad between him and Goku, but I will say that they are not the same. So Vegeta gets sent back to Earth after the events on Namek, squats at Bulma's place for 2 years, pipes her down after Future Trunks comes through, and leaves presumably for space, definitely for space in the anime, to do his Super Saiyan training, not dropping by even once to see his baby boy. He finds out that Future Trunks is in fact his kid the same day, and doesn't even try to save Bulma and Baby Trunks once Dr. Gero launches a blast that nearly kills the both of them. And he doesn't stop to check on him once after the initial encounter with androids 17 and 18. He ignored Future Trunks when he attempted to do his own training before Goku picked him up to go to the hyperbolic time chamber. We don't see Vegeta and Trunks train together in the time chamber in the manga, but they did spend a year together. In the anime though, Vegeta just kinda does his own thing as Future Trunks does what he does best, suffers. The next day, the two go to fight Cell and get washed accordingly. But afterwards, the two go back to Capsule Corp after recovering via senzu. In the anime, everybody's at Kame House, but the two still interact with each other regardless. In the lead up to the Cell games, Vegeta goes back inside the hyperbolic time chamber to train by himself. Trunks waits for him at the lookout, and we can infer that he went back inside a second time on his own due to his hair having grown out again when he arrives with the others to the Cell Games arena. It's here at the Cell Games that we see Vegeta show some semblance of care/passion towards future Trunks for the first time ever since he's come back to the past. We see him fly into a rage and attack Cell after he puts that hole in Trunks' chest. And that event might have been the catalyst to Vegeta deciding to actually care about his newfound family. But the very next day, Trunks leaves to go back home to the future. But in all that time spent ignoring and berating future Trunks before the Cell Games, not once did Vegeta interact with his baby son or his baby mama. 7 years later, we see him training with Trunks, and when he discovers Trunks can turn to a Super Saiyan, he punches him in the face full force and makes him cry. Now, after the tournament gets underway, we do see Vegeta cheering on Trunks when he's up against Goten, but that can be more of a my family's better than Kakarot's family thing, and less of a I'm proud of my son thing. And then we see him hug Trunks for the first time before he blows himself up in an attempt to save everybody, specifically name-dropping Trunks, Bulma, and Goku. But, admittedly, we see Vegeta improve significantly as a father figure in Dragon Ball Super. We see him actually somewhat care about Kid Trunks when he's allowed on screen, and he does a lot of prep work for Bulma's pregnancy with Bulla. And he refuses to leave Bulma's side until Bulla was born, and we see him somewhat give a damn about Trunks every now and then throughout the future Trunks arc, with the father-son Gallic Gun being a personal highlight for me. So, with all that being said, calling Vegeta a better dad than Goku is an interesting hill to die on, and some of y'all will die on that hill, but it will not be worth it, dog. While both of them treat their second kids way better than the first, Goku wasn't there for Gohan because he was dead most of the time he was gone, specifically because he died defending him. Vegeta wasn't really there for Trunks at first because he didn't want to be there. And we gotta talk about how they treat their wives. Let's go through Goku and Chi-Chi first, alright? They meet as children and Chi-Chi falls in love at first sight. Goku, not knowing what marriage is, promises to marry her. That was when he was 11 years old. 7 years pass and the two reunite at the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. After defeating her at the tournament, she reveals who she is, and Goku reproposes right then and there. After that, they spend a year by themselves at Mount Paozu, and Ox King moves in with them. Goku and Chi-Chi do the dirty, and bam, Gohan's born. Chi-Chi wants Gohan to be more successful than her and Goku, so she wants him to focus on his studies. Goku wants to train him up, but respects Chi-Chi's wishes. After dying, he does leave her on her own for a year until the end of the battle with the Saiyans. Chi-Chi checks up on Goku while he's at the hospital, but he flies off to Namek after Gohan, Krillin, and Bulma. So, after a month of alone time, he abandons her for 2 years. Then, comes back to her for 3 years. They go on a forced trying not to die via Android vacation to Kame House for 10 days. And after a day apart, Goku and Gohan come back to her and take her home. They chill out for 6 days as a family, and the two of them spend the last 3 days alone together as Gohan's hanging out at the lookout with Dende and the rest of the gang. And those last 3 days are when Goku and Chi-Chi presumably do the dirty the second time and conceive Goten. 7 years is a long time to go without seeing anyone, let alone your dead spouse, but regardless. The day Goku came back was eventful to say the least, but the two at least interact with each other on screen/panel before he has to go back to the other side. And after Boo's death, Goku goes back home to Chi-Chi, Gohan, and Goten. Across the 5-year time skip between Z and Super, Goku gets a job at Chi-Chi's behest and becomes a farmer in order to finally provide for the family since Ox King's savings are dried up. Goku still tries to sneak in some training every now and then, And when he manages to secure the bag thanks to Mr. Satan, she lets him go off to train over at King Kai's planet. And while he goes off to train with Whis after Beerus' disappearance, Goku maintains his crop growing and selling, and Chi-Chi doesn't even care when Goku has to go off and help Future Trunks kill a version of himself that was possessed by an evil god that slaughtered his youngest son and wife in a separate timeline. And I'd also like to note, when Goku found out Zamasu killed Chi-Chi and Goten using his body to do it, he did not take it well. But as a gag, Goku reveals that he never kissed Chi-Chi in the Goku Black arc, despite busting her walls down at least twice. It might be a gag instead of actually canon, but if all of Super's canon, then that information is as well. And that definitely ain't a good look. But in the 5 years that passed leading up to the end of Z, the Son family, as far as we know, don't go through any extended separation periods the way they do in Z. Meanwhile, Vegeta doesn't interact with Bulma in any meaningful way until after Trunks is 7 years old. Vegeta had a one-night stand with Bulma, then dips to keep training in order to reach Super Saiyan, and only goes back to Capsule Corp after he gets humbled by Cell. Both times he goes back there. He stays there during the 7-year time skip, but never hugs his son, and maybe, just maybe, he's fucking Bulma on the regular since she complains about him training, but she still keeps him around. After he dies trying to stop Boo, he doesn't interact with Bulma or mention her at all until the battle's over. Unless you count the time he yelled at Goku for trying to bribe old Kai into helping out Gohan by telling him he could flirt with Bulma. However, he's a much better partner in Super in comparison. Yeah, he's constantly training, but he's training in their backyard, so he's always home. He goes out with Trunks and Bulma for a day of shopping and amusement park rides and shit. He put the hands on Beerus after he smacked Bulma. He went off with Goku to train with Whis, sure, but it's literally the first time the family was separated ever since the Buu arc. And Vegeta did not take the news about Zamasu killing Bulma and fucking with his son well at all. Plus, Vegeta refused to leave Bulma's side until Bulma was born. So Super really did him a lot of favors, showing us how far he's come as a person overall. With all that being said, while not being an exceptional father, even when you consider the situations he's managed to get himself and the universe into and out of, Son Goku is not a bad dad. I'd also go as far to say he's not the worst partner either. Vegeta starts out as a downright shit father and partner, but grows into a caring partner and parent, more so towards the older version of his son, but still. Piccolo is Uncle of the Year and the best babysitter a guy could ask for. He ain't nobody's daddy though. Personally, if y'all want to know the real best and worst dads in Dragon Ball, the best dad in my opinion is Krillin. Him and 18 are a power couple. He managed to get a place for them all to live in twice, got a job to support the family, one that pays more than Goku's and puts his martial prowess to use. He never abandoned his family, and he actually never purposefully put his kid into harm's way. And the worst dad in Dragon Ball, without a shadow of a doubt, Paragus. Mr. My son is a weapon that I control and have a shock collar on. The only real positive about Paragus is that he never wanted Broly to be killed, whether as a child or as an adult. But other than that, fuck him. And that's it. That's all I got in detail as to why Goku is definitively not a bad dad. This was something I've had on my mental for as long as I've been watching / reading Dragon Ball. So now whenever somebody tries to bring up that dumb shit, I can just show them this video. Lord knows I try to be thorough with this one, going back and forth between sections of the manga and rewatching parts of Z and Super just to make sure I have my facts straight. But if you're a big DBZ head, let me know if I missed anything. Oh, and if the mic sounds different, I did get a real one. Before I was just using a set of Turtle Beach headphones, but yeah, let me know if it's too low or whatever. I'm still trying to work out the kinks to this thing. And still no schedule as far as videos are concerned, but hopefully sooner rather than later I'll catch y'all at the next one. Peace.